All right, guys, good afternoon. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, February 25th. So, another big down day. I said here the equity route continues. Very nasty price action throughout the session. And where do we start? Well, we'll start with the performance for the day. SPY's was down 3%. So, the S&P down 3%. Small caps were worse. Yesterday, they were a little bit better. They were down 3.5%. The Q's down 2.7%. Various sectors today. I have to say, like the price action felt like a washout, right? If you kind of look at the performance of the day, not anything here. So really difficult. Like if you were trying to hide in gold miners, those didn't do well today. The GDX was down 3.5%. So I would expect to see less victory laps on Twitter today. Even in some of the things that normally do pretty well, like gold and bonds did okay today, but they were only up 0.5% too. I mean, I'm long some TLT, so there's nothing really to kind of jump up and down. This is one of those things where cash is king, or if you're in puts, right? If you're playing the short side, then you had a good day today. So what's going on here? Why is this happening like this? And you would think, let's go back to that gold just for a second, GLD. Why was that down 1.8%? Right, GLD was that, yeah, it was down 1.8%. Well, because things don't always have to make sense. When the market is doing this, it's kind of it's out of the norm, right? That the market is pulling down this fast, and it's not going to make sense every day, right? Relationships that you would think that would normally make sense, sometimes in the short term they sometimes they don't. The relationships break apart when you've got basically what you've got going on. So we'll look at some levels to watch. I will kind of give you what I'm thinking. Basically, I will tell you a little bit about why I think why this is occurring the way it is. A couple weeks ago we heard. I mean, there's a lot of different factors, right? A couple weeks ago, well, I would say the last two reports that have come out of the Bank of America Fund Manager Survey have been talking about really low levels of cash, right? This market, like investors, have been basically all in, and that's dangerous when that happens. We haven't had any major pullback or correction, so it gets kind of nasty, and I think that's probably the right word for it. When you're moving up like this and you don't have a reasonable pullback in a while to kind of shuffle, to shake things out a little bit. Well, I think things have been shaken out. So levels to kind of let's go back to that weekly chart before I go into some levels. So what I tend to look for, and if you watched yesterday's video, what I said yesterday was, hey, we really didn't get any confirmation, right? I use that word a lot, confirmation, right? I like to see some things kind of turn around during the day. That gives you a sense that buyers are coming back into the market, that things have gotten maybe a little bit pushed to too far to one direction of the boat, and usually things balance out and buyers come back, right? So I went over, yesterday, this checklist that I put out on Twitter on Friday, and I said, hey, we really didn't get any of these things. And then, of course, like after I gave the video, I hear that there's a markets in turmoil special on CNBC. The market kind of got a little bit of a bid last night, but I just really didn't think too much of it. I would rather so before I get into what I want to see, let's talk about if we have anything to kind of look for now. So I tend to look for these things known as virgin point of controls as we start to break through support. Like, so for example, once we break through support, there's these things called virgin point of controls, where there's been a lot of volume before that we have not revisited, right? So we took one of these out today. Now, of course, it's been just like I said in yesterday's video. It's like, okay, what line are we going to basically stop at, and what line is going to be defended? We don't know that yet. So that was taken out. We don't have another one of these until all the way down here, which is 29.91, which is a long way away. The further these things are away, the less like gravitational pull they have. You kind of think of them as magnets a little bit. So this one is taken out. And again, price can go much further before it bounces. There was a couple. wait for my charts to adjust here. There was two of these that we said, and we talked about in last night's video. I gave you both these levels. And again, I didn't really think that we were going to go down another 3% for the day. But both of these have been taken out. There's going to be, more that live lower. I mean, there's another one at 3,046. Do I think this is a better chance, a better shot for us to bounce here than we had yesterday? Yes, I do, even though we didn't really see any confirmation for the day. But this is support one, this is support two, these white lines. We're sitting here at the bottom of this one, so I think even a short-term bounce is is favors today versus yesterday, just because it was such a washout. Even though I don't really have any confirmation to tell you about, so I would watch for tomorrow, right? If we can't hold 3118, 3118, I would be a little bit worried. On the 5 minute, and this is gonna take a few minutes, or not, sorry, not a few minutes, but about 15 seconds or so for this to kind of populate in, because I'm relying on Thinkorswim, and there's a lot of memory when I go and look at a time frame that has 180 days. But you're going to see a lot of epochs. Now, we did take out this last one here. Again, you're going to see this populate in a second, and I'll even turn this on for you so that you could see the labels when these occurred. Show epoch dates. Turn that on. So that'll take another few seconds. But while Thinkorswim is adjusting to the data that I'm trying to fetch here, why won't that go over further? Oh, that's all right. We'll go through just kind of the checklist that I put yesterday. So, I put market pullbacks occur for different reasons, but frequently have similarities to them. Now, of course, this is a lot because of this got ignited by the coronavirus and the uncertainty, which is still there. But you have to. This is one of the hardest things. You just have to let these things play out, because they could get crazier than you could imagine. And I think that's what we're kind of seeing here is, we've now had a 7% decline in a very short amount in just a few days. And then we can kind of look for confirmation. But these are some of the things that I look for, right? The VIX to stop going up. We haven't seen that. The VIX topped out at a 20. The one thing that I mentioned was this is a very small divergence. When we hit a high here at 30, and the market took out its low. Sorry, Thinkorswim is still adjusting, waiting for these VPOCs to come in here. But we did not make a new high in the VIX when the market made a new low, right around 330, 340 today. So that's a very small divergence. I don't know if really that's enough. So we kind of look at things in terms of risk to return and probability. So I think it looks better than yesterday in terms of if you're looking for a rebound, but I'm not completely convinced that the selling pressure is done yet. Again, I think better than the previous day. The put call ratio that did tick higher today. So that's one box that you could possibly check. This thing hit almost 1.4. That tells you that there's some fear in the market when you see the put call ratio tick that high. So that is a box that I think was checked. Technical levels to hold. So right now we're blowing through these VPOCs. Right, here we go. So Thinkorswim finally adjusted here. Yeah, and then I have a couple other things. Market breadth. Market breadth is not telling us that there's any confirmation yet. So again, sorry that this Thinkorswim takes a long time to adjust, but you could see that there was one taken out here. But the thing that's a little bit dangerous here is there's a lot that live lower. Now, if market breadth starts to improve, that would tell me. Let's see if I could. I knew that was going to happen. Where's market breadth? Maybe at least I can zoom in on that. So you could see, just looking at this bottom here, this bottom chart, that market breadth did not get better at any point today. It's small rebound there, but so that's not telling us really anything positive. And then I like to see some sectors rally a little bit, like biotech, some risk on something like that, or it could be even software, but I like biotech. And clearly, we're not seeing that yet. So, going back to this point, so again, I'm rehashing like the same checklist, and unfortunately, the checklist just did not provide that confirmation today. Uh, so, going back to this, number one, try to continue to let this play out a little bit. I did dip my toe into some things just like I did yesterday, which didn't work obviously yesterday. I try to buy lightly. It is really difficult. It's one of the hardest things to kind of sit on your hands when you see the market going down like this, because your mind tends to think, okay, this has got to be a buying opportunity. I've bought the dip before and it's worked. And I've said this before, the problem is with that tactic is we don't always get 1 day sell-offs or half a day sell-offs. If it's the multi, you could really get hurt pretty badly playing that game. And I know, many members have seen this before, where we've got multiple days, and you have to scale. If you're going to be trying to catch a falling knife. So that's kind of the situation for that we're in right now. Does it make sense? Not everything is going to make sense, but when you look at the cash levels and the speculation that retail has been taking in this market, it can happen pretty quickly, and I think that's what we have on our hands. At some point, I would think, either tomorrow or Thursday, maybe buyers start to come back in a little bit once things are getting pretty washed out. What I would be looking for is not what we had in the overnight session last night. You actually, in my opinion, and again, this video is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. But in my opinion, you don't want futures to go up 0.5% in the overnight market. You want to see them firmly down. It's just the way it works, because what normally happens is if you have selling pressure like this, where the market is down 1 day 3%, down 2%, and the futures are up 0.5% or 0.75%, that's giving the opportunity of anybody who still needed to sell to hit that bid pretty hard on the open. So that's why I think coming in down 1% would be a better setup for tomorrow if you're looking for a bigger bounce. If you're just looking for 0.5% for futures, and you can trade futures in the overnight session, then that's one thing. But if you're looking for more of a concrete bounce, I do not want to see futures go up. A couple names that reported after the close, names are getting hit hard. Salesforce had, besides they said that they're, what is it? They're co-CEO, I think, is leaving. Is that what they said? But their numbers were really good. It says meets estimates, but everything I see here, I guess the range was here, but it looked like very strong numbers for Salesforce. And this thing can't even go up after a down day. Then there's another Planet Fitness, not so good. Toll Brothers, I have to read through their numbers, but they were down 5.7%. They're down another $3 again after hours. So, this again tells me that we could have some more to go. And again, we have to think about this in probabilities, right? When you see something like this happening, maybe we're getting to the tail end of selling, hopefully. All right, guys, so that is it for today's call. Hang in there. If this has been a tough couple days for you, these drawdowns like this are always learning experiences. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. There's always something to learn on these sell-offs, so make notes. I do think, again, it depends on your time frame. In my one account, I just outright bought, that's in the tactical portfolio, around lunchtime today. So it depends on your time frame. Give yourself a chance to uh, have trades work out for you. Because again, I think I talked about in yesterday's video, if you're trading short-term options, sometimes you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Now, of course, if you're trading options right now, you can only lose the premium that you put in, but you will lose that premium very quickly if you're trading short-term options, and you have no recovery. If the market stays down for a couple days, those option positions are done. If you buy stock, so I was talking about this pre-market. So for example, right, we could look at previous sell-offs, right? Let's look at the one, let's look at this one, right? This was a tricky period back last May, right? I think I have the right date. Yeah, last May, we fell clearly not as fast as we are now, but but we rebounded a couple days. And let's say that you even bought on the worst day here. If you bought stock here, now you had to live with a little bit of pain, but you eventually went on, and that stock is, if you held, did pretty well. But if you bought like weekly call options here, you had 100% loss most likely. So be mindful of what you're doing, and you don't really want to be just lighting money on fire by trading short-term options. If this market doesn't bounce for you in your direction, put or call. All right, guys, that's it. Again, everything that we're talking about here is for information purposes, not trying to tell anybody what to do, but hopefully just opening people's eyes to, you know, uh, how to kind of tackle this environment. So again, if you're okay losing 100% of the premium, then I could have a ball trading short-term options. But that's the environment that we're in right now, and the VIX is 27, which I think trading options once the VIX gets above 15 is difficult. Even harder very difficult around 20. VIX is at 27 right now. So take it for what it's worth. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.